Okay, so introduction to animation. As you can probably tell by my title graphics, I love animation. And in the title graphics, the first example was using straightforward animation. The bit where I write down the title, that's time-lapse. So, animation and time-lapse. The main difference between the two of them, animation, you take the photographs manually, and time-lapse, it's done automatically by the program that you're using. So you will set it to automatically take a photograph every 1 second, every 0.5 of a second, and then both of them, once you've finished, the app that you're using will string the photographs together and make it into a seamless video. With film and animation and time-lapse, the thing you've got in common is individual photographs. Film is not magically made into a film just by being film. It's not a thing. It's a series of photographs. Most commonly, up until very recently, standard film would be 24 frames per second. That is 24 photographs per second of film, per second of watching time. So there'll be 24 photographs taken for every second of film that you watch. It's not that hard to understand. Quite often with animation, you can knock down the frame rate. The basic rule of thumb is, the more photographs that you've got per second, the smoother the image is going to be. And animation can be quite clunky. That's fine, because obviously the more times you have to take a photograph, it's going to take you a lot longer to make a film. Professional film studios, they can afford to have a higher frame rate, they can take more photographs because they've got more time on their hands, whereas we want to make something now and get it done. When you spend more time doing it, you can spend a bit more time taking more photographs, make it smoother, tinier movements. It's all about experimenting. As with anything that I do, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of just having a go. So, onto stop motion animation. I use an app called iMotion, which is for the Apple phone, which I use. I've also got a program called Stickbot Studio, which is basically just animation software, and it's developed for Apple and Android, and you can download it for free. It's designed to go with these little stick figures called stickbots that you can buy from like supermarkets, and they're like these square kind of robot-y type things with jointed parts that you can move around and animate with. It's quite a nice idea, but you don't have to have them if you don't want them. You can just download the software from your app store or your game store, your Play Store, whatever you use. And basically all it involves is taking a series of photographs and then the app strings it together as a film. That's it. That's how animation works. The fun you can have with it, it comes down to your imagination. I prefer using 2D for animation. There's a good reason for that, and it's because I really don't want to spend loads of time trying to make sets, having foregrounds, backgrounds, making sure that things are in shot, that things aren't you can't see the background, things like that. When I'm filming down on a piece of paper, straight down, all I have to think about is that paper in front of me. I don't have to think about the 3D space. That's not to say I don't work in 3D, because as you'll see in my sweets animation at the end of this, I've done 3D. The sweets stand up and roll, and it is 3D. It's just on a 2D plane. Anyway, so that's it. As you can see on my film here, I am taking a photograph and moving the object, and then I'm taking a photograph and I'm moving the object. Taking a photograph, moving the object. That's it. That's as simple as it gets. You kind of move it along one tiny bit at a time, make sure your hand's out of the shot, and take the photograph. If you're doing time-lapse, by the way, because it's taking regular photographs, you don't get your hand out of the shot. You just can't. So a time-lapse is basically a speeded up version of a film. It's quite useful for showing the progress on something. Showing things like sunsets is great on time-lapse. So if you've got a good view from a window, do a time lapse of sunset or sunrise. Or if you've got people around outside, time lapse them. If you're also, there's another type of time lapse. I'm going to put some links in the description here for some animations to check out. One of them is a video animation that I watched a number of years ago, but I absolutely love. And it's called, it's the Sandbox, and it's filmed in New York, and it uses a type of a technique combined with time-lapse, and it also uses this technique called tilt shift. Now, tilt shift gives the impression of a very small model. So if you think about like model railways and filming model railways and things like that, it gives that effect, but in the real world. So it uses depth of focus, change the depth of focus on the lens effect. And you can get apps that do that as well. You can put your own films into it, your own time-lapse films into an app that does tilt shift. Just again, search tilt shift. There are free apps available. I have found them before. I can't think of any off the top of my head now. But that's how the Sandbox was filmed. And it's an absolutely stunning piece of animation. And also, when I've done animations in the past, my favourite animation, which I'll give a link to at the bottom, that I worked on, was done at Crisis in the Art Room, and we used objects in the art room and animated them. Now that one is in 3D in some ways. Some of it's 2D, some of it's 3D, and some of it has time-lapse, but it's a really, really cracking film. And all the members involved, took part and, had a lot of fun doing it. So that's a little bit of an introduction into animation, stop motion animation. So if you like things like Wallace and Gromit, or even some of the older stuff, like Bagpuss and things like that, that's where stop motion came from. See you next time.